Yeah, good to go.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Kiernan. I'm the new Innovation Fund Manager for the Public Service Innovation Fund. I've joined the team since August, and I'm here today to discuss the launch of the fund for 2022. With me today, I have Carmel O'Hare from Monaghan County Council, two-time winner this year of fund applications, and Carmel is going to discuss how to write a successful fund application and give some tips to the people out there for 2022. And joining us from the Defence Force is Captain Vinny Lanigan, who was previously a member of the Public Service Innovation team. And he will talk about the applications he would have processed since his time between 2019 and 2021. So I'm just going to start off. Owen, our host, is going to show you the Innovation Fund video for 2022.
The Public Service Innovation Fund is now open for 2022. Since its introduction in 2019, the Public Service Innovation Fund has helped establish 73 innovative projects across the public service and has brought forward new, innovative ideas that have had a significant impact on the citizens of Ireland and the public bodies that serve them. In 2022, the Public Service Innovation Fund will continue to evolve in its delivery and how it will make innovation real across the public service. Our response in meeting the challenges resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic and developing a new normal has driven our public servants in creating innovative solutions that bring vital services to the public more efficiently. The call for funding in 2022 is seeking projects that are diverse, impactful, demonstrate scalability, and valued between €25,000 and €60,000. A new project category concept has been introduced to focus project applications into central areas of innovation. They include digital transformation, citizen support innovation, green initiatives, sustainability. Applications for the fund can be found online through the Our Public Service website at ops.gov.ie. So, what are you waiting for? Let's help grow your ideas into reality.
Brilliant. So for anyone that's new out there that hasn't previously engaged with the fund, Owen's just going to hand back rights over to me, and what I'll do is I'll discuss the new application process, the new form, and what we're looking for as part of the fund scheme for 2022. A bit of housekeeping. We love any questions to come in through the Q&A chat box, and what we'll do is we will get to them at the end of the talk. So again, if you have any questions throughout, please type them up, and Owen will let us know at the end, and we can direct them towards any of our panelists or directly to myself. So Owen, do I have rights there?
Yep, you should have it there.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to first share the website for the fund. Can everyone see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so the website, again, you'll find anything to do with the funding at ops.gov.ie/networks/funding/. So again, the fund was launched as part of the Innovation Conference in November, and the deadline for applications is set at the 17th of December 2021. And the reason why we did this was for two reasons. One, it was to give more time. To future applicants in the project cycle for 2022. So that means that they had more time to work on their projects and see to the end and make sure that all their proposals met the success required as per their application form. And the second was we wanted to link it in with our innovation conference and promote the fund as part of a live event for the first time since its existence since 2019. So previous iterations were done online. We wanted to launch it live, and that was coincided with a panel event with previous applicants that have successfully completed their projects as part of the 2020 and 2021 fund application process. So in 2022, some of the key points for information you can find through our link for information fund guidelines and through the application form. So I'm just going to show the application form to start off with. And as I said, the deadline for 2022 projects is set at the 17th of December 2021, and that is at noon. The difference for 2022, and you would have seen in our video, and it'll come across hopefully throughout today, is the word impact. We're looking for projects that have impact on the citizen, on the public service body, on the organization, or making something better. And another key change is we've pushed towards certain key categories for projects, and you'll see this in actually the application form. So again, we're looking at areas such as green initiatives, sustainability, citizen support innovation, and digital transformation. And the reason being is obviously we're trying to look at projects that can have a better impact on society, on the environment, and on our organization. So again, going back to the key word, the impact of the project. So again, to differentiate between green initiatives and sustainability, well, the green initiative could be one part of a overall sustainable plan. So it could be one element. Sustainability could be the whole element in terms of looking to improve for future generations' ability to sustain themselves. Then we have citizen support innovation. So again, how does the impact on the citizen? What is the impact on the citizen? And how can your solution transform the problems that they are experiencing to date? And finally, a focus on digital transformation. And again, these projects seek to use digital technology for development of solutions and promotes working through ideas in new ways. So again, I have the application form set up here, and the first part you'll see is the information of the applicant. So again, no big key issues here. Again, we're looking for the organization and the key contact person. So this will be the project lead. Then we're looking for the sector, where you're coming from, and then key information, including your email that will be used for to be able to respond to, and the contact number if we're to contact you by phone, etc. Moving forward into the key information part, we have the project title. So again, we're looking for something that defines your project very, very easily. And again, this could be a continuation of a previous project that you've been working on. But again, we're looking for a good identifiable project title. As I've just mentioned, the product category has been included. And for people out there that may not see their project aligning with one of those 4 key categories, there is another option. So again, if your project doesn't fall within that category, just select other, and then we ask you then to insert how you would define the project category. Moving on, we're looking, and again, you'll see this in the information guide when I get to it, we're looking for projects that are aligned with their organization's strategic priorities. Reason being is we want the focus that this is going to be in line with what your organization is trying to do, but it's going to have that impact, and it's going to get to the end line and implemented post the project cycle completion date. And again, if your project is aligned to your strategic priorities, please identify what reference or what element of the document that your strategy. Yes, I just seen a message there from Kiernan. Yes, you can align it to 2 more, and again, that's what the text box is for. So again, if it is aligned to multiple elements, please include them in the reference document. And what I'll do is I'll briefly talk this, because I know Carmel will talk a lot more about the project summary and what information, what kind of key information that we're looking to get across. Because again, we want to get to very specific points of your project proposal. And it's a quick summary, and you can see there that there's a set limit of 2,000 words. Now, what I will tell you is myself and Owen are trying to calculate the difference between characters and words. So you'll probably have a little bit more than 2,000 words. But again, we want you to be very, very specific. And you can see there in 1.6, provide a summary of the situation or problem being addressed. Propose solution and what the funding will be used for. Summary should outline if this project forms part of a broader organizational strategy plan. So again, it is going back to the earlier points. However, this shows that there's going to be a lot of support behind your project proposal. And again, what we want to see is completion to the end and implementation post the end of the project life cycle. So again, in this, and Carmel will talk about what she would have put into here, or how she was able to get across her project proposal. And again, Vinny will talk later on about, you know, when you see a project that stands out, and again, that could be the way the project summary is written in a clear, concise, and again has supported with links or image to show the solution or proposed solution. So again, that the brainstorming session has started and is being thrown into the project summary. And again, I'm going to go back to the term impact. So again, specifically, we want to see how this project proposal will deliver efficiencies and provide benefits for the end user. So again, the end user could be the general citizen, or could be the organisation that is servicing the public body. But again, focus will be on the impact. Next, project transferability and scalability summary. So again, one of the key goals of the fund is to show scalability of project ideas. So again, Carmel will talk about her project, My Cocoa, and again, that has shown transferability and scalability across the local authorities. And again, Carmel will talk a bit more on that. And again, an image or video can paint 1,000 words. So again, if you have any supporting video or images, and it's only optional, but again, we encourage any links to Vimeo, to YouTube, or whatever it is that you want to include, again, shows that the solution that, again, this could be easily implemented and your project proposal has already either a solution in that's made or something that's in design, etc., etc. Again, it's given that kind of project proposal a bit of scope and a bit of basically a picture of what it can look for completion. Moving on, we're looking from the proposed schedule timeline. So again, as coming in August, in the 2021, we've had a number of setbacks, whether it be COVID, whether it was the HSE cyber attack. So again, the proposed timeline isn't something that we will strictly adhere to, but again, gives us an idea of the start, the middle, and the end date for your project. So again, it's good to have it that it's achievable. So again, you're not trying to focus too much too early where it's not achievable, because again, we understand that many of our applicants out there will be doing this as in a part-time role, and again, it might not be their main priority. So again, when you approach this part of the question, our best advice is to make sure that's realistic. And again, that should include the kind of likes of the procurement timeframe. So as we said, we're focusing on projects that may have a digital solution. So again, the procurement timelines may take a little bit longer. So again, make sure you're clear and make sure they're achievable. And again, there's flexibility there as well. So again, if one part doesn't work, that you have a bit of scope to try and get it finished before you start the next part of your project, etc. So again, as part of the OPS team, we provide some support there. We sit down and again, we talk out problems with you, and we try and provide as much support to the future applicants as well. So again, it's key here to think this one out. I know there's only a 100-word limit, but as I said, we're looking for dates more than specific text. So if you have your project solution up above, and then you have, well, I'm going to start this part in March 2022, this part in May 2022, this part in September, and this part in October. And that's kind of what we're looking for. In terms of collaboration, we encourage collaboration, especially across different public bodies. And the reason why we encourage that is because that ultimately helps with the transferability and scalability of your solution. It's not a requirement. However, if organizations are looking to partner up, one organization will take lead and they will take on the financial element of the proposal. So again, just bear that in mind. And again, if your proposal has any connection to a private organization, we need to know that. And again, please provide the name of the organization that you're looking to collaborate with. So again, this could be multiple organizations, so please make sure that you fulfill this part. Moving on to funding, provide information on the contribution of the recipient organization. So can please provide any details of funding or staffing resource your organization will provide for this project. And the reason why we ask this, okay, there's no fixed requirement for co-funding or financial support from the organization. However, it is encouraged. What we also want to know is that there's enough resources that, again, as I said earlier on, you may have a small team that's doing this in part-time. So again, ensuring that there's a kind of team behind this to get project success, and that's what we're looking for. So again, what kind of staff is going to be assigned to it? Is it going to be part-time or full-time? And again, that's just kind of key information that will help the evaluators assess your application. And again, if there is any other source of funding, again, we're looking to see is this project being funded already? And again, have you previously been awarded any funding through the Public Service Innovation Fund as well? So again, what other potential source of funding for this project? Carmel will talk about her success this year, where she received funding from the Public Service Innovation Fund, and then her team won the Future Tech Challenge for 2021, where they've now won the services and support of a tech company, and she'll talk about that in more detail. I don't want to steal her thunder on that one. So again, if there's any other funding being attached or sourced, again, please insert that. In terms of the key information for funding, again, this is a proposal. Provide some flexibility because sometimes it will not happen. And again, there's a lot of unknowns. So again, we can only control the controllables. So have kind of some worked out financial plan for your project. And I said the project process hopefully will start at the end, mid to end February, and it will close mid-November. So again, there's a lot of time there to get the project up and running, and that's why, again, as I said, this is why we brought back the application process, because we wanted to give each future successful applicant a little bit more time, because again, we've seen in 2021 and 2020 the impact COVID has had, the impact Brexit has had, and again, the impact of unforeseen circumstances such as this HSE cyber attack has had on organisations trying to conduct their business as normal and that kind of stuff. So the procurement, supply lines and supply chains probably need a little bit more time added. So again, here we're looking for your best kind of proposal plan. And the key areas we're looking at: capital, materials, contracts for services, and any other. Okay, so again, what capital might be used, what will be sourced for materials, are you looking at using a supplier or a consultant or a contractor, etc., and anything that falls in the other bracket. Now, what I will say is it's very, very important that any funding adheres to the public procurement guidelines. So again, that's something that if you're not fully aware, you'll find in our guidelines. But again, it's something that you should be aware of when you're approaching the proposal. Okay, so if you're not aware of the key guidelines, please go to the information fund guidelines that will outline all that information. And again, when it comes quoting, it doesn't include VAT, but when it comes to the overall payment, it does include VAT. So that's another key element. So again, be mindful if you're awarded €30,000 that again you have to include VAT in the total reimbursement of your funding. And again, overall, what are you looking for? Okay, in terms of funding support. Now, as part of the application, we looked at the senior manager signs off on the proposal. So again, we're looking for the senior manager's name and job title. And if you have any kind of queries of what senior manager you're looking for, we have a quick outline that you'll find in the information guidelines in terms of who we're looking for in terms of a senior manager. And I know not all organizations are the same. So again, as a kind of a guidance, you can see that we're looking for a principal officer or higher from the civil service, director of service or higher in local government, and again, in the equivalent of that level across the public service bodies, okay? However, should your funding or application be successful, then we're looking at higher level again in terms of chief executives, directors general, or equivalent of your organization who are required to sign the memorandum of agreement between Department of Public Expenditure and your organization. So again, if you're successful, that's the contract that's signed between both parties for the funding process. And you'll see here we have the little star. Okay, so these are mandatory, so you'll need to have these provided. And this year what we've included is the finance officer, or a financial or a procurement officer, or someone who manages the accounts within your organization. And the reason being is it helps with the payment side of the house when it gets to the end of the project cycle. So when there's a reimbursement requirements from the applicants, again, it's important that we're aware of the point of contact is in your organization. So again, that can make life a lot easier for the project lead and the team in achieving that. Now, it's not mandatory, but what it is a requirement is, it's not mandatory, but we have included this year is the name and email of your organization's communications officer. And the reason why we included this is, again, you'll see the benefit of promoting your projects is through social media or through internal comms or external comms. So again, it's good that the applicant knows who maybe that communications officer is and includes the name. And again, we as a service, we try to promote any of the projects in terms of their launching, or if they're looking to do surveys, that we try to assist in that way as well. So again, having that point of contact can be quite beneficial for both organizations, and again, can help with the communication process of promoting the achievements of your projects. And again, I've mentioned above, have you received any previous funding through the Public Service Innovation Fund? And that's not a negative thing. We're not saying if you did that you can't again, but again, it's just for in terms of our data collection, and it's good to know if an organisation or a project applicant has received funding before. So again, it's not mandatory, but it is mandatory, but it's not something that will go against the applicant in terms of their proposal. So again, it's just for our own data collection. Before I hand over to Carmel, I just again reiterate from our website, you can see here the link for information about the fund. And again, this will bring you to this document. And it has a lot of information in terms of what we're looking for. It outlines the background of the fund and the types of projects we're looking for in 2022, and some of the key areas that your project proposal will be evaluated on. So again, the values, outcomes, and user impact. And again, I repeat that word impact. What is the impact on the citizen or on the organization for improvement that your project proposal will bring? The novelty, is it something different that hasn't been done again? Transferability, scalability, and learning, again, can this be scaled up? Can it be transferred outside your organization? Collaboration with other organizations, evidence-based, and again, procurement plan and contribution of the recipient organization. So again, is there going to be match funding from the organization? Is it going to be supported by whatever means? And again, that's what we're looking for. In terms of eligibility, I'm just going to push through. So again, you'll find that information yourself. Again, the scheme is only open to Irish public service bodies, okay? And again, commercial state bodies and Section 29 organisations are not eligible to apply for funding. Unfortunately, that's the rules that are included. So again, if you're a commercial state body or you fall under the Section 29 organisation, unfortunately, you're uneligible to apply for funding. From a financial element, what we're looking for in the funding available is a project proposal between 25,000 and up to a maximum of 60,000, okay? And again, all grant monies will be paid to organisations on the basis of a final report detailing the achievement of the project. So halfway through the project cycle, you will be required to submit an interim report. And after that, this is when the fourth element of reimbursements can be processed. And again, key dates, the last opportunity for the final reporting is the 21st of November 2022. And another element included in the 2022 cycle is each project will be required to conduct quarterly meetings with a member of the Public Service Innovation team. And that just allows both parties to ensure that you're on track, or if there's any problems arising that you were unforeseen. And again, it's part of that kind of partnership between both ourselves and the organisation that has successfully been shortlisted for project funding in 2022. So again, it's not something to dread. It's actually a good opportunity to discuss out your problem or discuss how your project's getting on and develop that relationship between both ourselves and yourselves. As I said, the deeper circular 13 and 14 will outline all the public service guidelines. And again, each successful applicant will be required to sign an MOA, which details the nature, quality, and scope of the proposal being supported. And again, it outlines the aims, objectives, and the project, and include general requirements as well as deliverables specific to your proposal. So again, going back to how your timeline or your funding requirements, it kind of adds that in. And again, there is elements to change that throughout the reporting year. There's a process for that. So again, if something happens and you can't achieve one element that you had in your initial proposal, well, then there is scope to make some minor changes. And again, that's on a case-by-case basis. The application deadline, as I said, will be Friday, the 17th of December 2021 at noon. Okay, so again, there's a 3-stage evaluation process being included for this year. And you'll see that there is the 4th stage will be to ensure that you're eligible and all the pre-qualifying conditions outlined below have been met. So again, to ensure that the budget is clearly laid out, again, that you qualify for the scheme, that you have senior sponsorship, and the financial accounting officer has been assigned. So again, that the key information that we're looking for is included in your proposal. Second is the evaluation process. And again, I talk about value, outcome, and impact. Okay, so each element of the of A to F are marked out of 5. Okay, and it's just again important to know the difference in terms of the criterion. Okay, so again, a number of 5 marks. Again, all aspects of criterion are met, etc., etc. Okay, and then the final stage of evaluation on the basis of the second round A panel of senior experts from across the public service and possibly the private sector will evaluate your proposals, and that will be the final part of the evaluation. And then the funding offer. If you're successful, you'll be issued a letter of offer and a draft memorandum of agreement to be signed by you, your financial officer, and the head of your organisation. And again, we'll ask that you acknowledge and accept your offer within a certain time frame of approximately 2 weeks. If you're unsuccessful, you will be issued a letter explaining the decision as well. As I said, all the information can be found through our website, including the video that we started at the start of this webinar, and all the key information in terms of access to the application form and information. And again, if you have any queries, you can see there innovation@pair.gov.ie, and you can also get me at chris.kiernan@pair.gov.ie if you want to email me directly. But any emails through the innovation email will get to me as well through our fabulous host, Owen. And again, all the other key information in terms of it you can find from our poster. And again, what we're trying to do is help to grow your ideas into reality. So I'm going to stop talking now. I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to hand over to Carmel O'Hare from Monaghan County Council. And Carmel, I ask, would you discuss impact and how you are best able to get across in your applications the impact of your project?
Thanks, Chris. Just before I do that, Chris, I was just letting people know that when you asked me first, would I come on and talk about our success and how to write a successful application, my initial reaction was, you must be joking. I'm not going to tell the competition anything because we have another application in this year as well. And why would I want to do that? But of course, I'm only joking. And I just want to make the point as well, I don't regard myself as an expert on this, but we have had some success over recent years. So I am happy to just give my input or whatever, you know, if I can be of any help at all, because I think one of the strengths in public sector is that we do collaborate and that we have strong networks. And even just to plug yourselves, Chris, in deeper and the innovation team, what you've done over recent years is fantastic, because it means, you know, before this we would have kind of in local authority, we would have just been working with our own local authority section and never would have looked outside of that across to the public sector. So it's kind of opened it up to a much broader network for us all to work together, and it's fantastic what you're doing. So that's my plug to get high up on your list. So just for anybody listening, I think one of the things I would like to say is that we really enjoy this process in Monaghan. We love applying for the awards. And I think that probably is an important point, that hopefully whoever is, if you have your projects or whoever is applying, that it is fun. And it, you know, it's a competition, and the buzz you get out of winning it gives the organisation a lift. The other thing is that the fact that you're getting money from outside the organisation, it sort of takes away a little bit of the risk. And the fact that it's your project's evaluated by other people, that it's sanity checks it for you as well, that, you know, it must be okay. So it does take away some of the pressure of it. I think a good point that we've learned over the few years is our first year we applied in 2019 and we were successful, but we didn't think probably as big as we're thinking now. So I think a good piece of advice is to be ambitious with your project. Don't be afraid to challenge the status quo, and don't be afraid to approach other public services bodies or highlight practices that need to change. And this sometimes can be at central government level, where there's like something in a circular that's confining you to a certain way of working, and that needs to be challenged, that needs to be modernized. And I think don't be afraid in your project to say, oh, this is the solution because we're working within this restriction. Challenge the restriction, because you may be able to go further than you actually think. And that's what we've done with our recent success with My Cocoa. Before you tackle the application form, I think make sure that you're very aware of the problem, that you can describe it in layman's terms, because you'll be putting that into your project summary. But sometimes I know we've hit a problem, we've tried to address it, and you realize, oh God, it's bigger than we thought. That's only a part of it, and there's a huge, bigger problem, and it's a bigger problem than that. So try and get a whole feel for the extent and the breadth of the challenge or the problem that you're trying to address before you start writing it into your application. Another little piece of advice, I always view the application form as my Leave Cert exam, and you're looking at the points. I know it's very kind of like an academic process, but if there's 10 points under a heading and you think, well, maybe there's 2 points for each for each statement, so maybe get 5 good points into that, and try and write it in that way that it makes it easy. So put yourself in the shoes of the evaluator. Try and think, what are they looking for under that heading? And maybe that's 10 points if it's 2 marks each, or that's kind of way I'd be guessing it, so that, God, I think I'll get a few points there and I'll get a few points there. And if you're hitting the marks, then you're going to get through at least stage 1. That's what I'd be thinking. Get through stage 1, and that's it. That's, at least that's a starting point. So in terms of the project summary, it has, as Chris has said, the application form has changed slightly, but it does include a description of the problem and of the solution. So again, think of yourself as the evaluator. You know nothing about the domain that you're in, so you have to explain it in like layman's terms, as if you're talking to a child or a member of your family, and that's how I do it. My poor family are tortured with all the ideas that I come up with because I sound it through them, and my colleagues on the team, they do the same. So when we're applying for awards, our whole families are in there as well. Did we win? Did we win, Mommy? Did we win? But I think that whole wider family organization, it just gives you a perspective that you're not going to get if you're kind of stuck in your own, especially us people in IT, because we are very technical. So we need to get a wider view of that we're describing this correctly. So if I give you an example of some of the projects that we've won with, the first one was a community alerts solution, and we applied for that back in 2019. It was the first deeper public service innovation fund. But at the time, the community alert systems were failing all over the country because the member of the community had to fund it. So they had to put money into the fund for an alert to be issued. And then some members of the community were issuing alerts about lost dogs and different things that was using up the money and wasn't necessarily helping with crime rate. So they were in danger of dying out. And this is the impact that you want to get into your application form, the impact that it's having on the community. Crime rate was reducing with community alerts, but they were going to die out, which meant crime rate was going to increase. So you were able to get that into your application form. And then, we were small at that stage. We were just thinking within County Monaghan, but we did get funding, and we have a very successful scheme in place, and a number of other local authorities now have taken that model. So you can see how the success that we had in the Innovation Fund has now spread across the local authority sector, and it's the community and the impact that's having on the community. It has revived the community text alert scheme, and it's very successful, and the guards are partners on that. So some of the other, this year, I suppose the project we had that was successful is My Coco. And just for people who aren't familiar with it, it's really a one-stop shop portal for all local authority services, for the microservices. There are some national services that are already developed, but there's over 1,100 services that the local authorities deliver, and most of them are paper-based manual processes. So this project is going to automate and digitize those processes. And as you can see, that's a huge project to tackle 1,100 services. So what we did was, and you may be the same, is look at it maybe in phases, or what we looked at it was we applied in terms of a proof of concept to Deeper Innovation Fund in 2021. So we looked at one group of stakeholders, which is our solicitors who submit legal queries, and they were particularly affected, or they let us know that the service was terrible, I suppose. So we worked with the solicitors. We developed a pilot group of the solicitors as our stakeholders. So I think that's important when you're developing your application, if you get feedback or input from the customers. So, we were able to say the exact impact it was having. It was taking up to 6 weeks to turn around a legal query. It was all paper-based, and they absolutely had no visibility on where their query was at any one time, if anyone was even dealing with it. And if they phoned in, the person answering the phone didn't know where it was either. So it was a poor process. So I think, as Chris has said, when you're describing the problem, describe it in terms of the impact that it's having on the citizen, on the community, on the organisation in terms of efficiency and credibility. There's new things to take into account now with climate action and the environment and sustainable, and they are now in the categories. But it's to look at that overall impact and describe it, and look at it in a broad sense, like you know, there's the new blended working as well. You know, does it have an impact? Does it prevent staff being able to work remotely, the current process, and can it be transformed so that more staff can avail of remote working? There's a lot of those kind of questions to ask, and we probably could have like a little framework that you could work through, you know, to, you know, maybe that's something, Chris, that we should develop for applications, is that you can have right impact on citizen, impact on organization, on efficiency, on performance, on customer service, that it would help people kind of think in those ways. Because sometimes I'd be looking at like doing a kind of a pestle analysis. I know industry use that, like, so that's your political, legal, economics, social, technical, you know, and it helps you in that kind of term. There's also like demands on the sector to meet digital services that we have to have delivered over up to 90% of services digitally by 2030, and we have to have our carbon footprint reduced. So taking into account all of those, as well as your strategies, your organizational strategies. And we always, as a week, we always like to try and show the impact it has meeting the public sector innovation strategy for priorities, and that as well it's nice to tie in with those and align with those. So again, that's describing the problem, and I think very much we frame the solution in the same manner. So as Chris, you've pointed out again, it is the impact. How is your solution that you're proposing going to benefit and going to solve all those issues and impacts on the citizen that you've mentioned earlier? And if you can get that down in layman's terms as well. And I think the video and the images are of huge help. We've got better at that in Monaghan over the years, and for the Future Tech Challenge, we actually got a lovely little 90-second video done of our solution, of how it was going to work and how it was going to impact the customer. And it's available on YouTube if anybody wanted to look at it, but it just gives a very simple overview of what My Cocoa is, what our ambition is, and explains the problem and the solution. So even though it's optional, I think if you can do it, it explains it a lot better than words on a page. For someone that's looking at that, it's a lot easier to see it in an image. So that's really, you know, it's not that we're doing anything any different, I don't think, but we probably are thinking big, you know, and being ambitious, looking at the problem that we have. See, is that problem relevant only to yourself? And if it is, you're probably not going to be just as successful in the funding. It's better if it's a problem that exists across a wider section. And for us in local government, there's 31 local authorities, so there's more likely going to be 31 local authorities affected by a similar problem. But even if it's just your own organisation, it's more to look at the solution that you're developing. In that solution, you know, is there components of that that can be then shared with other public sector bodies? So even if you might be tackling a problem that you have, but you might be developing a solution such as artificial intelligence, such as a chat bot, and these are just examples, they can be used. You know, we're developing some of the solutions with Amazon using artificial intelligence to identify document identification, that it'll identify a driving license, it'll identify insurance documents. That component could be reused across the public sector, because most of our services involve an application of some degree, and most of them involve like verification of documentation, and a lot of the time that's a human that's doing that. And if we can then use that, the component that we're building across the public sector, it'll get better as well, because it'll be improved as each public sector takes it on. But you know, think of your solution in those terms. Can this part of it be reused? Can it be scaled up? Can we introduce more services that use the same? Because that will get a bigger impact, and the evaluator and the fund will I'd say, see that it has worked for us anyway. I think collaboration is of huge value, because it's nice to share the problem, I suppose, and share the solution. It's a much more enjoyable journey if you're collaborating. So for example, with My Cocoa, we're collaborating with 10 local authorities working together to develop the initial set of solutions. We have our developer, our software developer, working with us, and we're now working with Amazon as well to help us develop the solutions. We have Department of Public Expenditure on board. We have Department of Social Welfare, the ASP, the correct title for it. And funding seems to also attract more funding, which we're finding out, which is fantastic. So, you know, you get endorsement from the judges that this is a good project. But what has happened to us now as well is that the Department of Housing, the Chief Information Officer, Mihai, he has also seen the value and the benefit and the impact that the project's going to have on the citizen. And they're committing $250,000 of funding for our project now in 2022, which is just phenomenal, you know, especially when we didn't apply for that particular one. So I hope they don't make it too difficult for us to access it, you know, that it'll be too painful to get. But it's fantastic that the central government is can see the benefit of the innovation and is willing to support it. So I think the message really is don't be afraid, think big. Your application, scale it down so that you can do it within the framework, within the year or whatever, because that's where you put yourself under severe pressure. And we learned that ourselves. We were a little bit over eager in 2021 with what we thought we were going to do for My Cocoa, and we happily blame the HSE and their cyber incident, because I mean it did we all had to knuckle down and put a lot more resources. Even though our security was good, it's never good enough. You know, that's where we've had to unfortunately concentrate a lot, and it impacts across the board. All our staff at the moment are tied up with patching and upgrading and updating and moving systems for, you know, getting rid of Windows 2008, all those kind of things, which is not giving any value to the end user. They don't see any difference, but they would if we all know the impact of what happens if we get hacked. So unfortunately, you have to kind of think big, but scale your application down, and then you can move on to the next phase in a subsequent time. But at least you'll have proved your concept. And I think I have kind of covered scalability and transferability in that earlier, just in your solution. Just see, can you scale it up? Who else would benefit from the same solution? Can it move outside your own sector? And can it even move outside Ireland? Do you know? Because there's a project we're looking at this year that we think would have global reach if we're successful in getting the funding. So Chris, I think that's everything there.
No, just thank you for that. There's a lot of takeaways, a lot of people for a lot of people in terms of how to decompartmentalize their application and and how to write it in the with the eyes of the evaluator and how they're going to read it as well. So I think that's some great advice. And again, thanks for plugging, making innovation real. Again, I didn't get to get to that part, but again, I appreciate you highlighting the fact that there is a guidance document, making innovation real. Basically, it allows us to it's Ireland's inaugural public service innovation strategy, and again, you're going to find it through our information guide. It's highlighted in blue, and again, it outlines kind of the steps to foster and sustain innovation across the public service. So again, within the innovation strategy that Carmel highlighted, again, there's some key goals and priorities, how to reshape your organization to be more citizen-centric, develop a culture of innovation, scale up innovation, and again, transformative innovation. So again, if anyone is curious or hasn't seen it, you'll find it through the Information Fund guidelines, or again, by accessing our public service website. So thanks for plugging that as well, Carmel, and for all the fantastic insights into your process and your achievements to date. So again, now I'm going to hand over to Captain Vinny Lanigan from the Irish Defence Forces, who just recently finished his time with our public service and the innovation team. And again, Vinny, I'm just going to ask you if you can talk about some of the applications that you would have seen or come across you that showed a lot of impact, and what advice you would give future applicants for the fund.
Yeah, no problem at all, Chris. I suppose much like Carmel, I certainly don't consider myself an expert, but having been through 3 cycles of the fund, I've probably had eyes on just shy of nearly 1,000 projects. So I did get to see the weird, the wild, and the wonderful that was out there and that was submitted. So when I was asked to do this, I was delighted, obviously, to try and give back some of the lessons identified that were picked up along the way. But I kind of looked at it from a very binary view, and I love Carmel's analogy about the leaving cert, because like that's really how there needed to be a fair system that each project could be graded on, and really it's given to you in the fund guideline. And I'd implore everyone to download the fund guideline. And certainly if you can't get through the whole lot of it, look at section 3 that gives the headings that your project is going to be scored on, because that is the critical part in getting your project over the line to secure the funding. And it might sound there's a bit of repetition and overlap between myself and Carmel's presentations, but I suppose behavioural scientists say you need to hear things 7 times before it actually sinks in. So hopefully there'll be something gleaned from this. I would preface it by saying that no matter how many nice emails you sent to the kind people in OPS, they have no impact in the scoring of your project. There is a 3-stage robust process there, and I would have been involved in the eligibility checks. So just to make sure that you'd applied for the right funding, that you were a public servant, and that you had manager sign off. Now I do see that the new guideline has a finance officer as part of the eligibility. So I had no hand to play in the actual scoring, but this is just my own experience of what some of the projects that came through. So I plan to give maybe an example of each of the headings, a project that made it through, and why I thought it made it through. So as I said, do read the fund guidelines. Hopefully you might have noticed every single year the guidelines have changed, and that's based on feedback from the applicants themselves to either make this process more streamlined or make it easier for the applicants. The team always took on people's advice, so hopefully you'll have noticed they've changed again, so please download them again and go through them. So I suppose first and foremost, you're looking at the values, outcomes and user impact. So one of the projects that stood out for me in terms of impact was a robotic process automation in the pensions section of the Department of Education. So they had looked for €40,000 to introduce RPA into their processes, and at the time their admin personnel were dealing with 55,000 teachers and non-teaching staff. So as you can imagine, that was a lot of manual, labour intensive and time consuming work. And off the back of their project, then they'd hope to save 20 minutes per input from each person. So, and that equated to 1.1 million minutes saved, or 3,000 working days, or 12 years saved. So straight away from that project, you can see the value in implementing something like that within a unit. The outcomes themselves is then that those personnel can either be redistributed to more value-added work, and most importantly, the impact for that employee themselves is that they're not doing this labor-intensive, time-consuming work that at times can bring down morale. Everybody has done it as part of their job, so straight away that kind of project ticked that box for. Now I will stress, all the projects I mentioned scored highly in all of these categories, but they would have had standout areas. So I'll implore everyone again to go back to the score matrix. Before, as Carmel alluded to, there might be 10 marks for one area, or there could be 20 for another. It's been streamlined again, where there's 5 marks for every area. So make sure you're hitting every single heading. In terms of novelty then, I just want to stress, it doesn't have to be new to the world. It just has to be new to your organization. So it's not invention. It's just novel to your organization. And one of the projects that really hit that headline was the An Garda Síochána, Your Ideas. So just for 40,000, off the back of the Commission for Policing in Ireland, it had highlighted that innovation and new approaches needed to be considered for An Garda Síochána. So they came up with 2 hackathons. Again, everybody probably on this call has heard of hackathons, but they were brand new to An Garda Síochána. So they came up with one challenge around organizational challenges, and then one challenge based on technology and policing. And probably what struck me from this was the amount of actionable ideas that came from the front line. And I don't mean the front line just from An Garda Síochána. It came from the front line of the organization. So this could be replicated in any organization. Because many departments will have front-facing sections, and it's fantastic to get the ideas from the very front line of your organization kind of sent right back up to the mothership that is the department headquarters, and it's actionable then, so they can do. So it really struck me that a lot of the ideas that were implemented through these hackathons were very simple things, but there might have been an avenue for the front line to kind of send it up through the chain of command, whereas this kind of nearly put a rocket on it and got it straight up to the top, and they received funding. So that was just kind of under the heading of novelty. In terms of transferability, scalability, and learning, then I suppose I have to plug the Defence Forces. They look for 50,000 for computer-based simulators. So as you'd be aware, they have the Defence Force have a number of armoured personnel carriers, or tanks as some people like to call them. And as you can imagine, it takes a lot of training for personnel to get them qualified to drive these vehicles. And the idea behind their VR headsets was that part of this training could be done in their own barracks or location before they're brought down to the Curragh for a driving test. So it saves basically a direct money cost of people not driving from Galway, Donegal, Cork, all the way down to Kildare to do a 3-week course. It could be half down to a week and a half in their own installation and then brought to the Curragh. And then it also had an environmental saving. So the vehicles themselves weren't being driven around, and then the staff themselves weren't driving to and from the different training installations. And this was transferable right across the public service. So think of any public service body that drives vehicles, and Garda Síochána, the fire service, emergency medical service. So the idea then was that these personnel could use this exact same technology to train their staff. So I really think where the Defence Forces are at now is they're probably at the learning stage of that, so they're taking the learnings from that, and hopefully then that can be scaled right across the public service, because as I mentioned before, there's some direct savings there, be it monetary or environmental. So that was just a good project in terms of that heading. In terms of collaboration then with other organisations, Enterprise Ireland then came up with a digital innovation assessment tool. So not only was this a good tool for Enterprise Ireland clients, they came to the table thinking they were going to have a scorecard or a digital assessment tool for their IDA clients, and then also in collaboration with the Department of Public Expenditure and Forum, they'd have a public service innovation scorecard. So straight off the bat, they had highlighted that this tool would effectively, it would measure innovation within an organization, try to identify the gaps, and then signpost people towards different support avenues. But right from the start, they had said they wanted to do this in collaboration with with the IDA and with DPER to set up one that would cover a multitude of organizations. So again, the idea itself had merit, but they also really strongly built in collaboration into their project. Evidence-based then, for 25,000, one that stood out really to me was the Maynooth University and Mountjoy Prison partnership. So their project aimed to tackle the damaging effects of criminal convictions and the lifelong stigmatism experienced by people who have convictions. And I just remember the evidence base that they had around their project really stood out to me. The main aim of that project then was to address the tendency of convicted PERs to re-offend. So they wanted to develop new skills and educational outputs for prisoners and former prisoners. So it really always struck me the amount of peer-reviewed research, and you're not always going to get that depending on your project, but they had really put in a strong effort to show that they put in a lot of effort into the research of this project, and it wasn't just kind of a punt. And this brings me back to Carmel's point about the Leaving Cert. You need to show the people marking that effectively you have thought about this and that they can score you using that scoring rubric that's at the back of the fund guidelines. In terms of the last heading then, Procurement Plan, no project really stood out to me, but basically the easiest thing to do for that, I would say, would be to break your project into phases and then come up with this is how much expenditure is going to be spent in that phase. And therefore, again, you're showing that you've gone out, this might be your subject matter expert, but you've gone out, you've asked people. This is a good chance to collaborate with other departments and sections where you're saying, look, we're thinking about doing this. What's the output like? And again, you go back to the markers, like they can't not give you full marks if you've shown, yeah, I've fully thought out this plan. This is where the money is going to be spent, and this is the kind of timeline it's going to be spent in. It's a no-brainer for them. They kind of have to give you the full marks. So that's kind of like the 6 headings and where they fit in. I suppose the application in general, some of this stuff might sound obvious today, but there's no doubt in my mind some organizations got the application and plowed straight through it, had a great idea, filled in all the questions that was there and hit submit, and then may have gone back and looked at the fund guidelines, and at times had gaping holes in their application. Their idea was sound and genuine, but they had gaping holes in their applications where they hadn't covered the headings that were asked for in the fund guideline, and made it impossible for the evaluators to give them full marks. And I say that because it's very hard as an evaluator to fairly score two projects. So you might look at well, depending on what the project is. So if you look at the pensions one that I spoke about earlier, and I remember another project that got funding was a neonatal nutrition calculator for children, and it's very hard to put a RPA project and a health project together, but the OPS team have to do that, and they have to come up with a system that is fair, that RPA project will get marked fairly as well as the health one, because the health ones do tug on the heartstrings, and it's very hard if you were to compare them right beside each other. But these projects have to be marked in isolation, therefore there has to be a scoring rubric, therefore you have to be taking the marks, or you have to be taking off the headings that have been asked from you. So that's why I would say over and over and over again is to look at the headings. Basically, I would, if I was doing an application in the morning, I'd write down the 6 headings, and as Carmel said, I'd write 2 or 3 points behind each heading, and make sure that those points made it into my application. And if they didn't, I would find a way to get them in there. As Chris showed you earlier, there are natural places that these headings will fit into, but if you've gone through your list and feel, okay, as part of my evidence base, I don't think I've really I would get it in there in some way, shape or form to force the evaluators to give you the marks that you kind of deserve. The video, then again, if you feel you want to submit a video, because they can have massive impact stories, it's nearly easier to kind of tell a story over video than an application. Again, I would jot down the points you want to get across in your video and ensure that the video covers that off. And probably finally, I would say there's absolutely no time wasted in putting in one of these applications. In my time, there was numerous occasions where someone wasn't given funding the first year, they made slight tweaks to their application and they received funding the next year. And alternatively then, if you don't receive funding in this funding stream, as Carmel alluded to, there are many different funding streams out there that your application that you've put a lot of time and effort into could be slightly tweaked and put into that process. So there's absolutely no time wasted in filling in an application. It is disappointing when you don't receive it, but it could be a timing issue that there was another project like it. And if so, reach out to those people and say, could they collaborate next time, or slightly tweak it a different way, or go back and review it and see, did I actually hit all the headings that were in the fund guidelines? And that's really from my own personal view as to how I think a lot of these projects, where the idea had great merit, they skillfully covered off all the headings that was asked of them as well. So it's combining the great idea with a great application, and hopefully from Carmel's presentation earlier, you can marry the two together.
Right, that was great, really. Thanks for that. Some fantastic information and a great story to tell people of how to approach the application process. And again, bringing some of the previous projects to light in terms of how they best represented the impact or the transferability or the evidence base. And again, just on that note, and I'll just share briefly two key aspects. So again, some of the information that Vinny had mentioned, you can see here. I hope I'm sharing it this screen, but you can see here in the right hand corner, we have our previous projects funded from 2019 to 2021. So again, if you want any ideas, or was there any projects done in the area that you're considering, again, you'll find information on that. And then there could be some great collaboration made between yourselves and those organizations that may have done projects in that field. Next, I just want to bring your attention to, sorry, one second. We have an Innovation Fund Storytelling Masterclass with Tangent. and that is on the 8th of December. Okay, so again, this is a great way for attendees to learn how to communicate their innovative ideas, refine their ability to tell a story, and develop the tools and techniques necessary to bring their ideas to life. And again, you can register for this event through our website at ops.gov.ie events, and you'll find it there. And again, places for this are limited. So again, they're starting to fill up quickly. So again, it's another opportunity to learn from experts in terms of how to approach your application. Just gonna stop sharing. I just wanted to, Owen, have we got any questions from across the participants?
Yeah, just wanted to that haven't been alluded to. So Rachel asked, is the collaboration between public service organisation and academics from an Irish university acceptable?
Yeah, it's very, very much encouraged. Again, Vinny highlighted there one aspect where Maynooth University had a project. They had one this year as well. So again, it would be very, very encouraged for that.
Yeah, that seems to be the only one that wasn't alluded to during the session. So I think that's it then, Chris.
Okay, I'm just going to check the chat box. So yeah, so someone asked, can you confirm that it's okay to submit a project being close to completion versus only at the start of the process? Well, as I said, look, is that going to have impact? It sounds from that question, it would. So again, we would encourage if that is one element of the overall project cycle that needs to complete. So yeah, we would encourage that application again, as Vinny and Carmel highlighted. It has impact, and as Vinny mentioned again, in terms of what that's going to serve in terms of the evaluator. We can see this project come to conclusion, and again achieving all the aspects we look for in terms of a project proposal. I think that is it. I think someone had asked the funding parameters. So again, it's 25,000 to 60,000. Okay, so it's a minimum of 25,000 and a maximum of 60,000. I don't know if anyone has any questions before we wrap up. I don't see anything coming in the Q&A or the chat. So if no one has any questions, I'd like to thank Carmel O'Hare from Monaghan County Council, and I'd like to thank Captain Vinny Lanigan from the Irish Defence Forces for participating in today's webinar, to our host, Owen, who is always there in support. And again, if anyone has any questions regarding the fund, you'll be able to email us at innovation@pair.gov.ie or email me directly at chris.kiernan@pair.gov.ie. And again, I encourage, if you are new to our public service or to the Innovation Fund, etc., we would ask you to sign up to join our network. So again, anyone that hasn't signed up, you can email innovation@pair.gov.ie. And for anyone that wants any more information about today's webinar, you will find the recording uploaded via YouTube and our website later on today. So again, two takeaways. The deadline's coming close. We have a story masterclass coming. And again, impact. What your project's going to do in terms of impact. So I'd like to thank everyone again today, and we will sign off. Thanks very much.